Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday, everybody.
Bachelor Nation.
As usual, let's make sure that our sound's working because we've got some sound stuff. Make sure if you're watching us live, let us know in the comments if you can hear us and see us, because otherwise, what's happening?
Yeah, otherwise we're just talking into the ether. I wish that I could pivot the camera to show you all the beautiful snow falling outside of our window right now.
Never picks it up quite right.
Yeah, it doesn't. Today, the day of recording is the day after The Bachelor aired, which is Tuesday, February 2nd. And yesterday we got massive snowfall here in New York. It was very fun to sit up on the patio of our apartment and watch people trying to shovel their cars and driveways. And being a California girl, Kyle's from California too, but he grew up with snow in the mountains, and I had the more traditional California experience that you think of when you think of California. So I love watching the snow so much, and perfect through that story. We got confirmation that we can be heard and seen, and I am thrilled.
Fantastic.
Amanda is here. Erica is here. Isabel, Cassie, Arlene, Patty, Bahara. Hello.
Hey.
Welcome. Thank you all so much for being here. And is everybody else so freaking happy about last night's episode? Yeah! I wanted to do a dance and party. I felt like I broke up with someone last night. You know that feeling of relief when you've been in a relationship or you've had a lingering friendship with someone and you're like, we just got to end this thing. And it's looming over you. That's how I felt about these women. Yes.
But for me, it was like seeing a coworker you hate leave work, finally. Because this is not a breakup thing, because this is not a situation that I found myself in the first place. This is much more akin to having a shitty coworker than having a bad relationship, because the only reason this behavior is tolerated at all up to this point is because it's a group dating dynamic. And if that behavior was done in front of Matt one time, guess what happens? We're going to find out. But the thing is, that's why this is way more like a shitty coworker who's being a dick to everybody behind the boss's back, and no one sees anything, and then finally they fuck it up, and the boss fires them, and you watch them walk out, and nothing feels like that, except for this. This feels like that.
Kyle, I retract everything I said. That is so accurate.
Yeah.
Apparently, I just get a little bit more emotionally attached to my jobs, which makes sense.
Based off of our working together track record, when we worked in restaurants together, that's 100% true.
So the analogy makes perfect sense.
Bye. Don't let the door hit you.
I'm actually excited. Aside from week 1, this is the first week that I have felt excited, truly, thoroughly excited about talking about the show. And I actually want to say thank you to those of you who are watching and listening for not only sticking with us when we took a season off, but sticking with us the last 2 weeks, where it's just kind of been a bitch fest about what is not going well. And there hasn't been a lot of our typical content, some of it. And so we're really conscious of that. And we're really excited that the show took a turn this week to enable us to have the conversations that we want to have.
Yes. And that's what happens when you give us a dumpster fire to review. I'm going to say it's a dumpster fire.
Right.
Fortunately, dumpster fire seems to be getting put out, so we'll move on. We have
by
to
the
use
sexiest fireman ever.
Katie?
I was talking about Matt, but
Jessenia?
yes.
Yeah, sure. What?
It's an and.
It's an and.
Total crush on. Who doesn't have a crush on Katie?
I challenge most people.
If you've not seen Katie's Instagram, I highly encourage you to go to Katie's Instagram, and there is a photo in the first 9 photos that you will see and say, oh, of course Rachael and Kyle love her, and you'll know exactly what we're talking about. Her handle's Vent with Katie.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll obviously talk about the people that made the last 2 episodes difficult a little bit in this one, so I'm ready for the next episode to be fully excited, because I got to deal with this a little bit, and then we'll move on.
Their names still have to come up.
Well, I mean,
today.
If anything, I can summarize the first half of this episode with the first 6 lines of my notes.
Oh, try.
All right, ready?
Yeah.
Cold open and Victoria sucks. Victoria and Kit suck. Anna sucks. MJ sucks. Katie's amazing. Blig, when do we get the bullying talk? Oh, good, right away. That was the opener. People were being shitty to each other immediately. It gets so built up after seeing Matt say, tomorrow we're going to have a bullying talk. And then, but like, the people that I named, Victoria, Anna, Kit, and MJ, are being shitty people. They're being cruel to each other, gossiping, and bullying one another.
So, I agree with you. And I don't think that Kit belongs in the same category as the other three.
What about when she and Victoria were walking around in the morning having a little pal talk?
I'm not saying she is innocent, but I'm just saying it's not binary. I think it's all on a spectrum. And I think out of those four, at least from what we've seen...
Would you put Kit and MJ in the same category?
No. Because Kit has not lied about what she's doing, and to our knowledge, and Kit has not gaslit other people into trying to think that she hasn't done anything. Kit is 21 years old.
Right.
Grew up in an insanely different way than everyone else. And while I don't agree with some of her behavior, I also like some of the things that she's done. I just don't think that she's in the same, like, mindset as the other three.
No, not at all. I think the thing that always comes up there is that, or often comes up with Kit, is that I think that fundamentally she's a pretty good human being. She just grew up in a way that removed a lot of reality from her experiences.
Yeah.
Like she could, absolutely, she could be a lot worse. I think there's like an unconscious inherent classism in the way that she presents herself and the way that she suggests that money is value and things like that, which is not necessarily her fault. Right. And she's getting to the age at which responsibility begins to creep up a little bit.
And we can talk a little bit about that more on her one-on-one date.
Yeah, so let's roll into it.
So I would love to just know from everybody who's here with us live, and if you are watching this as a recording on YouTube, let us know in the comments. If you're listening to this on the podcast, go ahead and take a minute and take a screenshot and tag us and answer this question. I want to know if you had to describe Monday night's episode in 1 to 3 words, how would you describe it? And either leave it in the live comments, leave it in the comments under the video if you're watching the replay, or if you're podcasting, pause, take a screenshot, describe the episode, and tag us. I am really curious about this.
Can you do it?
In 1 to 3?
1 to 3.
Last night?
Mm-hmm.
Matt is sexy.
Okay. Mine is maybe this time.
I like how yours is also the name of a Broadway song.
That's intentional.
I love you.
I know my audience.
So.
Most it's Rachael. Matt, we start right away, right? He walks out and he's like, hey, there's bullying. Rachel's got a great quote that she'll put out later on. I think on her Instagram we have it all written out, except for I wrote down one that I really liked. He said he confronts the women. He says that there's been bullying happening, that's not what he's about, and that's whack from the first episode. He didn't say that in this one, but I wish he did, because it made a lot more sense to me.
He could have, and that was we don't know.
I guess it would have broken the tension, but anyway. Like a serious conversation, and then someone calls bullying whack in a serious tone. I couldn't keep it together.
I mean, like, what if he did say it then, and they Franken bit it from before?
Maybe. What he says towards the end, after explaining, like, hey, this isn't okay, like, we're going to have to figure this out. I don't get enough time with you all, and now I have to deal with this.
And
it's a great way of framing it.
Before that, so this is what I really appreciated about how he entered in. So the lead always comes in and does, like, a toast, right? So it's not out of the norm for the lead of the show to stand in front of the group and address them before a rose ceremony. Right? Sometimes it's like a corny thing. Sometimes it's like a setting an intention for the night thing. I don't know if they would describe it like that, but that's what they're doing. And the way that Matt walked in, the energy was so different this time. It was very
principals here,
camp counselor.
We're in trouble.
I saw a meme. I was telling Kyle this morning. I'm like still laughing about it. I saw a meme in the subreddit last night. Somebody put Matt's face on the body of the principal from Mean Girls, the movie, and put like, all junior girl students, please report to the gymnasium immediately. Jesus. And it's like, please raise your hand if you've ever been personally harassed by. And then instead of Regina George, they like put Victoria's name.
Right.
Anyway,
of course.
So I loved how he walked in because his energy to me, I immediately knew that he was going to start with this. Just based on, like, his shoulders, he was carrying himself. And after he says what he's heard, he then says something to the effect of, and I'll post this exact quote on our Instagram, if you need to dim someone else's light to shine, that's not my wife.
It's something like that.
It was something along those lines.
Yeah.
And, like,
it's a good line.
It was so beautiful because he didn't get up there and start shaming a bunch of people for, like, quote unquote childish behavior or mean girl behavior or toxic behavior. He got up and said, this is what I heard. This is not okay. I'm frustrated with this. And frankly, this is not what I'm looking for. So, and then he pulls Brittany first because he had heard from multiple people that she had these rumors going around, which I loved that he then took that initiative to grab her.
Right. Which I think was good because it was very clear from the in-the-moment interviews that we saw that the other players were making sure that they would go first so that they can get their lie down first before reality sets in and all of that. Anyway, we get into that. So the whole thing is, so when Matt's talking to Brittany, they have a good conversation. They handle it quite well. He's very open. He's very receptive. I like her too. I like that she's like, this is ridiculous. This is my real life. My family watches this show. So what I liked is that in this episode, about 3 or 4 times, they broke the fourth wall and acknowledged that it's a television show.
Which never happens.
Jessenia still does it the best.
Oh my God, that moment.
I was laughing so hard.
That moment.
She became my top 3 at that point. She's not going to make a top 3 in the show. Doesn't matter. Jessenia's in my personal top 3. That was fantastic.
And as Cassie just said, when Matt was up there talking and said, like, rumors that could ruin someone's life, the camera not only zoomed in on Anna's face, it, like, did, like, a double or triple zoom. It panned to Anna and then went in on Anna. And we were sitting at home. We watched this last night with our other 2 partners. Well, my other 2 partners, Kyle's
dotted line partner, yeah.
Sure.
Partners.
Anyway, the 4 of us were watching it last night, and they said some funny stuff that I asked if I could quote throughout the episode, so I have some fun quotes to toss in from our peeps. And yes, B-Bean, it is Katie's no fake shirt on her Instagram. You got it.
What's the point?
So, Brittany talks about feeling bullied and how she didn't sign up for bullying and harassment. He really validates this and hears it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Katie then talks about just having no tolerance for this anymore, which we knew.
So one thing I really liked about this scene, while we see Matt talking to Brittany, we get a quick shot of a few of the girls talking in the room about, like, all the trashy, all the stuff that happened, all the trash talking, everything. What's great, though, is that you see how guilty people operate in 2 ways at once. You get the angry guilt, which is Victoria. She's projecting. She starts hunting who said something. Now, here's the thing. She's looking for Katie, but she doesn't know that. Anna is the other guilty person. Now, she's shame guilty. She's afraid of being caught.
She went right into remorse.
Exactly. So she thinks Victoria's looking for her. But she's not. Victoria's looking for Katie, but no one knows that because no one knows anything. And you see how both of them act. One completely shrinks and starts fabricating what her version of things were. One becomes incredibly aggressive and starts antagonizing everyone in sight, trying to appear strong and confident.
And that,
really interesting.
Kyle, that's such a wonderful
it's guilt
point.
2 ways.
It's guilt perfectly in 2 ways displayed. And also, you know, you and I were listening to our favorite Bachelor podcast, besides ours, obviously. Well, we don't re-listen to ourselves. That'd be fucking weird. But we were listening to our favorite Bachelor podcast, which is Here to Make Friends from Huffington Post. It's Emma Gray and Claire Fallon, and they're absolutely wonderful. They look at the show through more of a feminist and like sociology view, where we come from more of like the psychology and sex and relationships. And so they had a guest on that specializes in inclusion and diversity and She had a lot of really interesting comments to say. I learned a lot from listening to it. But one of the things that she pointed out that I wanted to verbally state on our show that I really went, oh my gosh, yeah, that is true. And that is partly me being a white woman that I didn't realize this. The villains of this season have been white women. If a woman of color behaved in the way that Victoria or Anna have acted, the backlash, I believe, would be more severe, and or there would be stereotypes being tossed around. Because they already crossed the line in a couple ways where Victoria, I think it was Victoria, that called one of the new women aggressive while she was talking,
I think so.
which is like a really old, negative...
Whistle.
It's a dog whistle, exactly. So I just wanted to, like, name that.
Yes.
That, like, they're getting away with this because they're white.
Yes. So an example of that, I forget the contestant's name, but I remember we saw her on one season of The Bachelor, and then she was a contestant on Bachelor in Paradise following up, and she got the, like, aggressive woman of color edit. And there was a lot, like, she had, like, dehydration. We found out later on, like, she was appearing to be, like, crazy on the show. But the problem is that, like, they're not giving context. We're just seeing this person portrayed that way. Mm-hmm. And what I really, really appreciate that point needs to be explained.
Like said,
I wonder if that at any point, I don't know if they'll ever bring that up. A great other version of like representing this particular problem in our culture actually comes, because I rewatched this episode the other day, of The Boys, in which one character's talking to the other character who's the president of the big company, and the character who's like mad at the guy who's the president of the company, who happens to be a person of color. He's like, why don't you go do something? This is bullshit. You're angry. And he's like, because that's a white man's privilege. I can't be angry and aggressive. And like, it's a great point to make in a show about superhero comics, oddly enough. And then also now we have this coming up in The Bachelor. I think it's hopefully a conversation that happens.
But it's true. It's like...
We're seeing the behavior exhibited. I would love to have the conversation put out there.
Right. And the idea that the discussion and the treatment is different. Yeah. And that needs to be acknowledged. Like, and again, that's not our area of expertise. That's not what we're going to, focus on. But... Nope. And she talked about so many other things that, like, I would love to pontificate on, but just go listen to their podcast. But that point I felt was so prominent and, like, really, like, took me back to be like, oh, fuck, she's right.
Yeah.
Like, we would never see that.
Could you imagine if a white beauty queen came in and a woman of color snatched her crown off her head?
That's what I mean. Like,
could you imagine how that would go?
And how that would be framed?
Poorly.
Ugh.
So, we get a quick cut of Anna doing what guilty people do. She is starting to say, she's trying to minimize the damage done. She starts saying,
backpedaling.
I said one thing. I said one bad thing that was out of character. I said a bad thing that was out of character when I was really stressed.
Which also, let's pause. A, that's not what happened. B, we need to get out of this narrative. If Brittany was an escort, calling her an escort is not a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with being an escort. The problem with what Anna did was she lied and spread a rumor that wasn't consistently over and over again.
Days of consistency.
And saying, like, in different formats. I've heard the term escort. I've heard she entertains men for money. Like, she used different phrasings. This was not a one-time slip of, oh, I heard this from my friend. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Please don't tell anybody.
Yeah. In fact, I had it written down like 3 times in different ways where I'm like, she keeps saying this, but she's lying. This is not what happened. You said it for hours. You said it for days. Like, I wrote it down a couple of times because she just kept repeating it.
Bean in our chat says, you two are describing America perfectly, which makes me so sad.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, it's like...
Thanks, but I'm not happy.
Yeah, thank you, but we don't like that. Like, it's...
Right, we get back to Anna after commercial minimizing it, saying it was an offhanded comment.
I'm
sorry, but an offhanded comment saying someone's an escort just really feels like an odd thing to defend yourself with.
Also, it was not an offhanded comment.
No, she just said she got caught, that's all.
And then she says, quote, the worst, I can't even say this with a straight face. This is Anna's direct quote. The worst thing I could say, I said.
Really? The worst thing?
So the worst thing? The worst
I can think of worse things to say to her without even thinking about it too much. Right?
Like, the worst thing you could say about a human is that they are a sex worker? Even if she was... Again, this was a rumor. But I'm looking at it from the perspective of, like, even if she was...
Right.
That's the worst thing.
Right.
Why is that even a bad thing?
Yeah.
Andy in our chat says, I agree. Women have been exploited by years for men. If she wants to take control of her own body and make more money, more power to her. Right. And again, we don't know. This is all speculation and all rumor. And we live in a culture where that rumor could ruin her life, which is really stupid. Yep. I wish that our culture was different in that way. Just like Andy's saying. Like,
I mean, the problem is widespread, though. Look at how somehow a certain percentage of the country can't forget that AOC bartended for a while. Weird.
Right.
You fucking care?
Right.
Doesn't matter.
Right.
Anyway, one thing I really appreciated how Matt talked to Anna. Matt pulls Anna aside. Most of the conversation I've already said in various more aggressive terms than what Matt does, but what I really appreciated...
This is why you're not the Bachelor.
Yes. This is the only reason why I'm not the Bachelor. The only reason. Definitely not 1,000 other reasons.
No, just that one.
Anyway. What I appreciate Matt doing is not saying, I don't like the way you spoke to her, I don't like people who bully, which he did some of that, but what he said specifically that I liked was, when Brittany got here, she was so, like, happy and light and full of energy, and, like, she's down. She is not like that. I forget exactly the phrasing, but he's saying, like, she was really happy when she got here, and she's, like, the excitement's gone. And I think that particular phrasing has nothing to do with his opinion or thoughts. He's explaining to Anna, as one would, to someone who doesn't understand, that, like, you hurt someone's feelings by saying a bad thing, and then you lied about it. You're hurting feelings by doing this, which I'm really impressed at how he did it, and I'm frustrated he had to do it the first place.
Yeah.
And speak with that level of, I don't know, like, patience, I guess.
So, I find this to be very interesting. Matt has either taken classes in therapeutic communication, or he has gone to therapy enough to where he has gained certain communication tools for really hard things. He does not ever say, you did this, you did, like, he doesn't communicate like a typical person who doesn't have education. Matt even empathized with Anna. Yeah. Matt said, I've done shit before that I am not proud of. And bye. Yep. So it wasn't, he didn't shame her. He didn't say, I cannot believe that you would do this to someone and almost ruin their life, you horrible person. He looked at the bigger picture and said, like, I'm creating this safe space, which also I loved. I love that he used that language. Does this contribute to the safe space? If the answer is no, he let her go. And frankly, he not only communicated that in, like, an expert way, he also, like, he showed his integrity and his follow-through as a person, saying, I want to create a safe space, and then he is. He's not saying, I want to create a safe space, but I like Anna, so I think I'm going to keep her around for one more week, just to, like, make out and see how it goes.
Right.
He's like, this is not okay, you're done. And I didn't know I could be more attracted to Matt, but I was after that. I really was. It was a great conversation, and Anna leaves. Yeah.
We get one more cut of Anna saying, she said something out of character and blah, blah, blah. And honestly, I disagree. Anna said something within character because she defended saying it and kept going. Anyway, so bye, Anna. That's nice.
Did anyone else think that Anna looked like a fembot from Austin Powers?
In the last episode?
In our
last recap, I said she looked like Stepford Wife. With the up hair and like the...
But this week was
more fembot. Yeah. Well, I mean, it was just the hair I made the judgment call off of last time, but pop culture icon, fembot, yeah, sure.
Okay, so Anna leaves. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say Anna leaves, and then we get a quick cut of the women talking in the mansion.
And this was fascinating.
Ryan became one of my favorite contestants, like, in this episode. She said something earlier on that I didn't write down, but she said something awesome earlier in the episode, and then she does again now. So continue, take it away. So
Chelsea asks the group. Chelsea says this word toxic is coming up. And she says, I'm not experiencing that. Does anybody else think it's toxic? Now, I liked this and I didn't like this. Here's why I didn't like it. She's in the house. Yeah. She's not dumb. And it's
a bait.
Someone said something. I don't believe that she has not witnessed one thing that would fall under the category of toxic.
And I don't like how she baited the group like that.
Yeah.
Do you want to sacrifice yourself? Anyone feel like jumping on a grenade? Jump on a grenade? No, it's bullshit.
Now,
continue.
What I will say is I did appreciate her stating her experience first and then saying, what about you guys? So it wasn't just a bait in the way that she was tossed it out with nothing and then had them grab on and then she changed her response.
Right.
She actually took a stance first.
True.
Didn't say that anybody else was wrong.
True.
What she said was, I haven't, which again, I think is a little bit of bullshit, but that's okay.
Right.
I liked how she asked that. And this started a really interesting conversation in which we get this really funny ITM from Serena saying that there's so much kiss-assery happening. And it was interesting coming from Serena because...
I didn't like that.
She... what is it, Serena C?
Yeah.
She, to me, has been a little bit like MJ in the way that she has chameleoned to fit her... whatever's going on.
She's not the leader of the pack. She's one of the cheerleaders.
Yes.
She's not going to lead. She doesn't want to lead. She's going to fold into the behavior around her. And so the behavior around her, if Chelsea could pay attention, is mirroring the toxic environment. So weird how it's represented that way.
So then we get into the scene, which is what, Kyle, you were talking about, where Matt and Ryan are talking. And what's happening editing-wise in this moment is we're cutting back and forth between Ryan and Matt having this wonderful conversation.
Yeah.
And Victoria talking about the things that she has said, kind of defending herself. And the editors are editing it perfectly to where it's almost like she's responding to what Ryan's saying to Matt. So Ryan is telling Matt, and one of the things that Ryan told Matt was new to me, which is that she said that because she's a dancer, she must be a hoe. And Ryan gets emotional sharing with Matt that the term hoe felt very hurtful to her. And it cuts to Victoria saying in her very specific tone, she says, I'm always playful. I'm never malicious. And then we cut to a commercial.
Of course.
So Ryan did an incredible job. If any Bachelor contestant needs to see how to tell the lead what's going on in the house without making yourself look like a total victim or a tattletale.
Right.
Watch Ryan.
Well, and she also stood up in front of the other... When Chelsea throws the grenade out there and waits to see if someone jumps on it, Ryan's the first one in line. She's like, yeah, you've been doing this weird JV varsity bullshit. And MJ pops off and says, no, we haven't. I haven't been the one parroting that, when she has. But Ryan stands up right away.
Whoa.
And says that it's super windy and the sun's snow outside. I know, I keep getting distracted.
Whoa. Okay. But can I ask a real question?
I'd hope so.
No. Like,
yeah.
These women know that it's going to be on TV. So, like, it was hilarious to me that we broke, and we'll get into the Jessenia thing in a minute. The fourth wall was broken a lot. Like, the airing of the footage was discussed a few times, which was hilarious to me. What do they think? So, MJ, okay? She lied. She literally said, like, I did not, da-da-da-da, which we'll get to.
And not like, my experience is this.
No.
She just said, no.
Like,
flat.
I didn't. And, like, she did.
Yeah, reality is different than yours.
How can you do that when you know that the show is going to air on TV? Like,
Maybe she thinks the producer's on her side and they're not going to edit the bad stuff.
I cannot conceptualize, like, that moment. If you're caught, like, you're caught. It's going to be, like...
If I was going on this show, you cannot imagine the amount of time I would spend in, like, speech therapy training myself to not say... like, reactionary things. Like, I would work on
the sound clips.
Like, if I was going to go on a
then
cooking...
you wouldn't kick gas.
I was going to say, if I was going to go on a cooking show, I'd practice certain things. If I was going to go on The Bachelor, Bachelorette, God, I would make sure I didn't say something stupid. One thing I didn't like about Matt, talking to Ryan, one thing about that I forgot that I wrote down, he acts very surprised when she's telling him the terrible things Victoria's been doing. And in the moment, he's like, I can't believe that. Are you fucking kidding me? Her name's been brought up twice already for this context. Like,
yes, but not in the direct bullying.
Really? I thought that it had, though.
It's been tossed around, but no more so than MJ. Like, I think at that point in time, he was just realizing that she was, like, that bad. Like, I don't think he really realized how bad. Because, Frank, you know why? You know why, actually? So the next conversation is him and Victoria. And this is why I think he didn't know why. During their conversation, he brings up things, she responds. He then says the comment about calling her a hoe. And Victoria makes a comment of, like, well, that's very out of context. And if Matt had known that Victoria was like this for longer, he would, in my opinion, he would have just said, okay. And he would have been done with the conversation at that point, because, like, what kind of a response?
Right.
He wanted to hear Victoria's explanation and asked her an amazing question in the most calm tone. I had, like, a communication therapist orgasm. Like, it was one of those things where I'm like, fuck yeah, Matt. Like, it was so well set. Like, he was like, I'm just curious. Like, his face stayed the same. His energy stayed the same. His body language stayed exactly the same. But the words were, like,
different.
I'm just curious in what context it is funny to call someone a hoe.
It was great.
And, like, Victoria just... She
couldn't
couldn't respond. And so that, to me, that question, though, tells me that he didn't realize what she was capable of. Like, I think that he was processing also just how detrimental she had been.
Like, possible. All that's possible, and it would make tons of sense based off of how you portrayed that. I think that's totally something that could have been because we've been wondering why she's there the whole time, and we don't know what they see and what they don't.
Right.
And if I was to put a tinfoil hat on, my theory could be that the producers said, "Hey, you can't get rid of her until week 4, so figure it out." And then he was like, oh, wow, she said something mean. I'm surprised by that, to play at the moment. Oh, you have to go now because Anna went earlier because more things. I don't know how it works. I don't know how much the producers can manipulate. All I'm saying is that we said earlier there's a possibility she could be a producer plant.
I don't think she is.
You don't think she is? But, like, the level of things on television.
No.
Really?
I sadly don't think she is.
Is it weird? Do you think that's like me hoping she is out of, like, I hope that someone's not really like that?
Yes.
Ugh.
But here's the thing.
That's rough.
She's still a producer plant
Oh, yeah.
Even if she's not a producer plant.
She's not an actress, she's a plant.
Right, that's what I mean.
She's
like, they knew she's not going to fall in love with Matt. And, like...
Yeah, I wrote down in the car home, she's mad at Katie for having emotions.
Yeah. Like, she's not even... They knew what they were doing. So the rose ceremony starts. 3 women, I believe, already have roses. And then he hands them out to Brittany, Ryan, Rachael, Serena P, Maggie, MJ, Jessenia, Katie, Abigail, Chelsea, Serena C. So we say goodbye to Miss Puerto Rico, to Mari, to Kayla, and to Victoria.
Bye.
And Victoria refuses to hug him, and says, I honestly feel so sorry for you that you would listen to hearsay instead of facts.
Court adjourned.
Cool. Bye. I was so happy. Isabel in our chat says, not gonna lie, I cracked up when Victoria was hiding behind the girls when they were supposed to be saying their goodbyes. Was literally dying laughing. Yeah, I was like, is she trying to stay? Like, is she trying to be like, I have a rose. It's behind I left it in my room.
Or something. Like, yeah, if she doesn't move, no one will notice her. Like
what?
So we get the commercial, she's gone, and we get this great cut, which is always frustrating for me, of all of the people who have been spreading some toxicity and playing along, saying, it's time to move on. We really want to leave all that drama in the past that I've been causing. Look, now that the ringleaders are gone, the ring just dissolves, right? We're not guilty. We weren't doing it too. It's really it's bothersome to me to have people, especially someone like MJ, act as if now it's time to move on when she's acted. I mean, she was third, I think, on the list of toxic people doing things.
And that's why people were saying things like, I believe it was Ryan that told him, like, it's really hard to hear these apologies when, like, the only reason why they're happening is because you stood up there and said it's not going to be tolerated. It's not because they feel bad for their actions.
Yep.
And that is 100% true. And frankly, again, the way, like, that statement to Matt and then Matt then taking action on it, that is a more adult conversation than, like, 75% of the interactions we see on the show.
Yeah, and Jenna in the comments reflects well, like, Brittany and Ryan got the first 2 roses in the rose ceremony, or they at least showed it to us in that way of editing.
No, I screened I paused it and stared to make sure nobody else had roses in the frame.
Well, but that level of intention is also helpful. I mean, because it also, every time that happens, one of the varsity girls is like, oh, I can't believe one of the new ones. Oh, this is really getting scary. Yeah, you're being a dick to these people for being on the show, which is so confusing. So
this, to me, was when, like, the episode started. I felt like when Victoria left, I had that same feeling that we talked about at the beginning. And I felt like, great, let's actually move in. I was a little bit bummed to... So, okay, pause. I skipped to the group date and totally skipped through Rachel's date. So we find out from Chris Harrison that we are just past the halfway point in the journey.
Yeah, I was not happy to learn that.
I was like, oh.
I was unhappy to learn that fact. There's still, now 16? We have 16 women still? No, wait. 3, 4, 15?
16.
No, Victoria and Emma, and then Mari.
15.
Well, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
And
it's a lot.
If last week and the week before hadn't happened, I would believe it or something.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
Whatever. So we're halfway through. That's kind of stressful. I imagine it's stressful for Matt and the contestants because I'm sitting on the couch being like, that shit's stressful.
Kyle's like, I haven't gotten my time with Matt.
I don't know who's who yet. I'm still forgetting someone's name.
So the date card comes in and it is a one-on-one for Rachael. Spelled wrong. Which, I'm just kidding, Rachael, but it is spelled differently than my Rachael.
Rachel spelled differently.
Rachel gets the pretty woman date, as it is lovingly called on the show.
Yep.
And they're very attractive together.
They mesh well together. I still think that she'll be in the final 3.
I agree.
And the reason why I think it's probably the same one as you. In the date, he says to her, like, hey, we've just been, like, connected since the first time. Like, I really appreciate, like, you're always there. You're always, like, trusting. And her response is, she's like, yeah, I mean, you said we'll make sure we have time together if it works. And here we are. And he's like, yeah. And so now we're on time. Like, they had a conversation on one of their first dates, or on their only date, where she's like, I like you. If you want to spend time around me, I like that. So if we're doing that, then that's good. I'm not going to get worried, because if you don't want to spend time with me, I'll just go. And then she was super cool. She's been in no drama, and now she's on another one-on-one.
Yes.
That's how it works. That's how you win the show, because you just chill and don't get stressed out.
100%.
Like, it's so easy, though.
I know. And their date was great.
Oh,
you know, it's a really wonderful, you could tell that the women like Rachael. Rachael has a good relationship with the women. Yep. Katie makes a comment that it's really hard now to start seeing people leave with Matt. She's like, it's my Matt. And I had this moment where I started remembering and thinking about how much this portion specifically of The Bachelor is like polyamorous dating. You are dating more than, like, you're dating more than one person. You're seeing the differences in their relationships than your relationships. That doesn't make it bad or wrong or better or worse. It's just different.
Yep.
And needing to trust in your connection and in your relationship and in what you're building, regardless of what is going on with anybody else, because frankly, it doesn't matter. That is a skill that is a very polyamorous / ethical non-monogamous skill, which is really funny that they have to get this skill to then go back to monogamy in 6 weeks. It's like, it's really funny. They get really, like, some of them get good at being supportive, and like they're, you know, the final 3
are usually like
would be like close. Considered metamors in the poly world.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
it's
as long as they get along.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me.
So yeah, they do the date. It's really fun. I wrote down, turns out this gorgeous woman looks great in everything the fashion store has. It's weird.
And then
here's something I liked.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
She gets back to the mansion. Of course, she has to do that with all the stupid bags, and like, here, show the people who didn't get to win your spoils of war. And obviously the girls were jealous, but here's what I like. No one that we saw, maybe they intentionally edited out a bunch of stuff to give us the impression the bullying's over, or what we saw is real, and no one targeted Rachael for having this date. No one's like, I don't like that she got it and I didn't. They're like, I wanted that. Shit. Okay. Like,
yeah, it was really healthy jealousy.
I appreciated that. Yes. It reminded me a lot of how, at this point of the show, how the guys were for Tayshia's season. A lot more, like, relaxed. They're not, like, being dicks to each other about anything. They're like, hey, you going on a date? That's cool. Like, we'll be friends.
Yeah.
I appreciated it.
Same. And
group date time.
The group date card gets there.
Yes.
And then we go back to Rachel's one-on-one. So the group date card arrives, and it's Serena P., Bree, Katie, Pieper, Serena C., Ryan, Michelle, Brittany, Maggie, Abigail, Chelsea, Jessenia, and MJ. And it says, love can be messy. So this means that Kit is getting the one-on-one date. And then we switch back to the evening portion of the date.
This blew my mind.
Blew it.
So, we can move past the amount of wine in her glass. Someone made a mistake and it wasn't her. So, usually the dinner conversation is, I've always found to be hit and miss as far as the show is. With Matt's season, he has proven time and time again that he asks very, very open-ended questions that allow the person to talk a lot, and then he holds space, then he listens, and this is no different whatsoever. In fact, this is the first time, in my opinion, his question has actually been one-upped by the quality of response. Because he asks why she hasn't been in love before, which is a way better way of saying, why are you the way you are, Colton? I still, it's my favorite question. Why are you the way you are?
I want to know why she's the way she is.
Like, that's what I wonder about, like, how a clock works. Or, like, I can't. Okay, so, what she responds with, I was surprised by, and then caught myself being surprised out of my own internal judgment of her as a person. She says she's felt undeserving of love for a very long time, and that she thinks he is out of her league, and she says this straight-faced, looking right in his eyes. And she's serious. She's super serious. He attempts to deflect, and she brings it back to, I didn't think I was good enough to do this, to be here. And having someone be that flat out, that calm, and also someone who has not, to what we've seen, show any nerves whatsoever, like, it's ice in her veins. It's ridiculous. I was
in a good
very
way.
impressed.
Like,
oh, that's usually a good thing. Ice in your veins is a good, like, Iceman, like Top Gun. We got that right. That's a reference.
Oh, no, ice in your veins means someone's cold-blooded, like, rude.
Oh, no, ice in your veins, you're cool as cucumber.
Oh, that's so
Am
interesting.
I the only one who gets that right? Like,
I've always heard that
comments.
in a negative way.
Oh, no, ice in your veins.
Like, she has ice in her veins.
Well, Cold as Ice is a Foreigner song. Let's keep going.
Well, I know that. That's a separate conversation. I really like Rachael, and what I found so interesting about this is that this whole time she's talking about confidence, and she, in her quietness, was actually coming off confident.
Mm-hmm.
She said that she had moments on the date where she just didn't feel deserving of even the dresses or the gifts.
Or
and
the time. Yep.
I really think that this is something that a lot of people experience, is not feeling worthy of things and self-sabotaging and setting up situations in our life that will then validate the story that we've made, right? So if we decide I am unworthy of love, then we will subconsciously do things to sabotage chances of having love because we want to make our own story true subconsciously. Even when everything in our conscious mind is saying, no, I want to go against that. It's not that easy.
Right. I mean, and then of course, like, zoom in on that one, and we're all trying to jump along the whole idea that life is a story, even though it's completely randomized events.
Right.
And we're like told there's a narrative because Disney and all these other things. Like, what? It's confusing. But you're right. And what I found so interesting is that I immediately had the knee jerk, like the internal one of like, the gorgeous person's insecure, which is so common. And then you reel it back in for a second. You're like, oh yeah, the person's insecure. We're human. Because what she says after that, she says, to have a relationship that I really want, I'm paraphrasing, to have a healthy relationship, to have the relationship that I want, I need to gain that confidence and like remove the self-doubt that I have about whether or not that I'm worthy in this. And he empathizes. He holds space, and he reflects that she always has his attention, and she's incredibly subtle in the way that she like has her presence around him, and he reflects positive things, but the way that she has presented herself, even around her own perceived, whether or not, insecurities or whatnot. And she says she knows she's insecure, yet everyone struggles with insecurity, and then just tells him she's starting to fall in love with him, and that she can spend her life with him, and just lays it all out on the table.
And then he says it back. This was really the first time that we hear him express this. This, to me, has been so evident with her so early on. Like,
I know I have my doubts because we didn't see her, but this is why. She's playing the long game.
Classic trope. It's just like on Nick Viall's season. We did not see Vanessa until about this time. They had their one-on-one date, and then she went on and won. I'm not saying Rachel's going to win the show. I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised. But she's playing her cards right, because now, at the one-on-one, she's emotionally connecting. She's being vulnerable. He's there to catch and support. And then they're forming a shared understanding and meaning of something. And all of that is great bonding stuff. And by being vulnerable about her insecurities, she's diffusing them before they happen. So if she becomes insecure, he already knows.
Yeah.
It's a great setup. Maybe she's playing this a game. I don't know. She's playing very well.
I don't think she's playing.
Well, it's always so hard because I keep using the word contestants, and it's like a phrasing thing. She is being herself, which on a show in which being yourself for romance is the goal, she's doing well. Is that better?
Sure.
Yeah.
So the day portion of the group date to me is like very uneventful and really had nothing to.
Seems like it skipped by quickly.
Yeah, it was. I looked at Kyle and I was like, "This is not a date."
I wrote Jessenia made a great joke about chickens. Go back and look at it. I guess if you wanted to note that joke, it was funny though.
Yeah. So then we move into the evening portion of the date. And I loved Loved some of these conversations. So unfortunately, we only get to see a few.
As always.
And so we're going to talk about Matt and Abigail. And then we're going to talk about...
Chelsea?
Chelsea. And then the 2-on-1. And then we can wrap up.
Well, the Chelsea thing is quick. I just really appreciated their... I can be started with that one, actually.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, Matt goes to talk to Chelsea, and he does one of those things where he's like, I just want to know where we're at, because she hasn't had a lot of time around him, so they're trying to feel he's seeing where things are at. And I just really appreciate her response. She's like, I like you if that's what you're asking. Like, where are we at? Like, I'm into you. Like, we're dating. Like, that I thought was really, really enjoyable. He always wants to know more about her, all these things. And I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if she stays there. They seem to have a good relationship. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So that was fun. Abigail and Matt sit down, and she shares with him so beautifully and openly and vulnerably that her biggest fear is that her biggest fear has become that she will disappoint him. And she talks about that it's probable that if she has biological children, that they will be deaf. And she said, in no way do I view my hearing loss as baggage, but when the most important people in your life walk out because of it. And she was talking about how her dad left.
Apparently it was the thing that she's afraid of happening. The thing she described that she doesn't want to have happen, I think is what happened.
Correct.
From what I understand. Yeah. She's brutal.
And he not only empathizes with her and then shares, I also grew up with a single mom. There's nothing to be ashamed of with that. Like, he talks about how he views it as a point of pride. And he acknowledges the deafness and says that the things about her that she's so worried about are the things that create the person that he is attracted to, and that's not a concern of his. And we paused this at this point because, wait, did we skip over Kit's one-on-one?
No.
Okay. Sorry guys, just random thought.
Kind of forgot it happened too.
Yeah. It was really, really, it was a special moment. It was a really special moment. And then Matt and Michelle talk. Mm-hmm. And my favorite quote of hers from this talk is she discusses how, she had such an interesting experience coming in late and then getting a one-on-one right away, having that connection with him. And she says that's going to take some practice in terms of watching him, getting used to watching him go off with other women. Yeah. She doesn't say, this is so hard. My heart is breaking. I can't share. This is my man.
Or it's hard for me to see you go off with someone else.
Yes.
Sure. It's only yours.
She says that's going to take some practice, which I wrote down. I love her because this is her saying, I want to learn how to tolerate uncomfortable feelings better.
Right.
And that is what part of what emotional regulation is our ability to be able to feel uncomfortable feelings, whether that is anxiety, jealousy, envy, right? Like, name the emotion that creates discomfort. How long can you tolerate sitting in that? And does it affect your behavior? Does it change how you interact with other people? Like, all of these things. And I loved her wording. That's going to take some practice. Because that is what it is. When people say, I'm not wired like that, often that's not true. It's just we need practice. Like, it's like me saying I'm not an athletic person. Yeah, I didn't grow up in an athletic family and it's not in my genetics. That does not mean that, I can't learn how to be a better athlete or that I am incapable.
Well, the genetics thing always cracks me up because, yeah, it is. We were all hunters, so... It is.
Right.
And also, you can become athletic with a year. Yes, I agree. I like the relationship with Michelle.
Yeah.
I think that they'll go. Too. I want her to be on the franchise for some reason. I think that even if they don't end up together, I'd like to have her come back as a contestant or a lead in some way because we could use more people on the show that are emotionally competent and expressive.
And smart and kind.
Right, and she's a teacher. She's not an influencer before the show. Yeah. She's a teacher on the show.
Yeah.
Great.
So finally,
Matt MJ down?
Matt and MJ talk.
Ugh.
And we don't need to go to this.
We can just break it down into like the main
Yeah. So MJ lies to Matt. She does not accept any responsibility for what she did, and in fact looks surprised when he says it. Like bold-faced lies to his face. Then she gets back to the women. She says, I was called the antagonist in the house. That is not what Matt said. So, no, you were not. Jessenia starts standing up for herself and the group to MJ. Mm-hmm. And MJ
calls her out.
Starts gaslighting Jessenia. And MJ starts saying that she deserves an apology from Jessenia, which is like a classic gaslight abuse control situation. Yep. Katie then chimes in and says, it seems like MJ's to MJ. She's like, it seems like you're deflecting because we keep asking you, are you going to own up to what happened with Matt? And you keep saying other things about other things. And so Katie and Jessenia are killing it. And MJ's just gaslighting, lying, and being defensive. And as our beautiful girlfriend just said in the chat, MJ equals most disappointing. She, to me, I thought on night one seemed so cool, so mellow. I was very excited about her vibe. And then she just crashed and burned.
Yeah. The whole thing was pretty terrible. MJ could have stopped talking and listened for a second, and it would have all gone a lot better than it did. I just wrote down, she just looks really shitty for doing what she's doing in front of everybody. And we're going to get to the point of why I feel so great about this episode in a second. But yeah, I have to imagine in this way, based off what I'm seeing, MJ is not thinking. She's in full defense mode. Yeah. She is heels dug in. Doesn't matter what you say to her. You could say, hey, MJ, isn't the sky blue today? And she would probably tell you it was green.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
So then we come back to all of the women. He's about to give out the group date rose. And I wrote down, we didn't even see the other women. Brittany was on this date.
Oh, yeah.
It was so focused around that conversation. It was very strange. He gives the rose to Abigail, which was beautiful because that was the, only other conversation that we saw besides Michelle.
Right.
And then we cut to a commercial. And when we come back, Matt James is Swiffer dustering his Airbnb, which two of us in the room thought that was strictly for the cameras, and two of us in the room think that Matt James likes to dust. So we would like to know your thoughts. Do you think that Matt James likes to Swiffer duster, or do you think that he had to Swiffer duster for B-roll footage? Let us know in the comments. Okay.
So the apartment is cleaned. He says he's aware of her fashion. He says he's aware of her fashion and wants to dress well and great. Did you know? A Bentley pulls up. I wrote down, did you know that she's rich? She's rich. Did you know she's rich? She's rich. Also, she's rich. And then she needs help falling in love because it's not easy.
And
I can't take it seriously.
I can't. My male partner says, quote, yeah, this is a babysitting job. In the middle of their one-on-one date.
But he's so right.
He was cooking. He was listening and watching, came back in the room, listens to her talking about needing help falling in love and wanting to bake cookies. I think that's all he heard. And all I hear was, yeah, this is a babysitting job. And
wait, I said it was all the best parts of porn, all the worst parts of actual babysitting. Yeah, that's what we said. It was ridiculous.
Also, to clarify, the question about the duster for B-roll, obviously they were filming it for B-roll. That's not what we're...
But do you think that he was actually
But do you think that Matt likes to Swiffer dust, or were they like, here, or...
Hold on. Question. Do you think he likes a very clean and organized apartment, and do you think he likes to clean it himself? Because having a nice, clean, organized space, you can hire someone to do that.
I don't know.
Especially if you're a well-to-do real estate person in New York. I just don't believe the Bachelor is dusting his own room. That's me.
I agree.
Dude's not dressing himself.
Maybe dude wants to do something for himself.
I can only imagine Matt James going to the production and Chris being like, guys,
I'm
really struggling right now. I'm struggling. I'm having a hard time processing. Like, oh, do you want to see the therapist? He's like, no. Can you bring some Swiffer dusters, one of the collapsible wands, and like some paper towels? Just a couple hours in the apartment. I'll be fine.
Here's the thing with Kit. So she made a comment, and I did not get this quote verbatim, so I am saying that now. She made a comment that said something along the lines of, getting in touch with your emotions is something that I've never done before. Now, after that, she says, with my partner, I just want the simple pleasures. So here's the thing with Kit, and I really want to bring all of you who have not ever experienced New York into this conversation. Kit grew up. Kit did not choose how she grew up. Okay, her mom is Cynthia Rowley, who, as Ashley, our girlfriend, showed me last night, is a very, very famous designer. Like, we're talking Fashion Week, upscale, Saks Neiman's.
9 figures in the bank account.
Like,
to do.
Her net worth, her mother's net worth is $100 million. We looked it up last night. So, that doesn't mean anything about Kit. I really want to separate that, because I think it is so unfair of us as people in general to put kids of very, very financially successful and public eye people in a box of, well, because they had a private chef growing up, or they must be this way, or they must be that way.
Right.
I see parts of Kit that are far more mature than other 21-year-olds, right? When I was 21, I did not say, I just want the simple pleasures with my partner. That sounds like a 42-year-old.
Yes.
And there is a very, very sad part of Kit that did not get a childhood.
I was gonna fucking read my mind.
And if you Google her, you'll see there's pictures of her literally at Fashion Week events and on the runway when she was 7. She has literally been in the public eye for her entire life. So when she says, it means so much to me to be in the kitchen with my mom baking cookies, that is her inner child being like, I just want to feel loved and not be on for everybody to watch. And yes, I know she's on a TV show, so I get it.
She said in the beginning she likes to be the center of attention.
Yes.
Also, I don't think she actually thinks that.
Well, I think she's gotten used to being in the center of attention and have probably had to grow to like it, yes. And maybe she does too. And that doesn't mean that she doesn't crave that simplicity. And so I was reading some comments online. The reason why I say this is because I was reading some comments online last night when I was scouring over Reddit. And a lot of people were really harping on Kit and saying bad things about her. And to me, we can say bad things about Victoria because Victoria, about the way that Victoria behaved, because Victoria behaved in a bad way.
Right.
Being born into a family of a designer is not being a bad person. And yes, Kit did some things that were not super nice on the spectrum of great. But she was not given a choice. She was born, she didn't consent to this life. She was born into it. And in New York, as quote unquote big as some people think New York is, it is such a small, small place. And everyone knows everyone, especially in those circles. And so she is so used to having to look a certain way, be a certain way, that, I don't know, I had a lot of compassion for her this episode. By no means do I think she is a good fit for Matt at this point in life. I think she has so much more life to live, and I want her to go live it and, like, experience things, but I will not get on board with shaming her for anything that has to do with how she was brought up, because she did not choose that.
Yeah, no, she needs to go have a childhood before she can have a successful relationship. That's kind of an important thing to have. Well, and that's the thing, is that, like, she... growing up so disconnected from reality, and I would say that it's worse here in New York than it is in other places, because when things like doors don't really matter to you, and they're just opened, literally, for you.
Or transportation.
So, like, down at the bodega, there's a guy who hangs out front and asks for $1 to open the door for you, and it throws me off. I'm so not used to having somebody else open a door, or a door that opens automatically. It throws me off. That's probably not a reality for her. And so I went to the place when I was thinking about this a little bit, because especially she says later on that she just now is being vulnerable for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think she meant on the show. I think she meant in life.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're 21 years old. When I was 21, I was a moron. Just idiot 21-year-old dude. Just everything stupid I could do, I was doing. She doesn't do that because she doesn't know how to.
Right.
Nothing.
And she's not
stupid
allowed
to her is what, like, getting your family's plane to take you and your friends somewhere. The concept is so much different.
Or, like wearing the same dress to an event twice in a row or something.
It's something I always remind myself when our culture glorifies rich people for really no reason.
Or vilifies them.
Well, it vilifies or glorifies with no regard of how the money actually got there, by the way, which is so funny, because Bill Gates does great things now. The way he got his money is pretty fucked up. Like, dude did some damage back in the day, but now he's helping. It's
and even there's a difference between, like, a Jeff Bezos and a
Bernie Sanders. They're both millionaires.
Or an Elon Musk. Like, even that. Like,
right. The point of that is that, so we're seeing it done like this. Kit's not doing anything terrible with her wealth that we don't know about, or even if she has any that we do know about. She never got to roll around in the mud with Legos. At 7 years old.
Right.
I did.
Or had the freedom to do that.
She never got stung by a bee because she didn't really understand how that worked when she was going around in the garden when they were 4. She didn't fall down the staircase because the screen door wouldn't latch when she was 2. These things never happened.
Because there were people making sure that the screen door was properly installed. And, like,
do you think she went to school once and was embarrassed by the school lunch her mom packed her? No. Right. Just like that stuff that formed the TV shows we all know never happened to her.
And that's not her fault. Like, that's nothing wrong.
Understand that. And that being said, I also don't think that someone in her position really adds a lot of value to the show. It's a great casting decision. They got, hey, whoa, should we get this rich, fast person who's 21 years old from New York?
Yeah.
Any 21-year-old, like, person who's, they have to have a thing. Like, McKenna had, or MyKenna, whatever, had, like, she was the 22-year-old fashion person from Canada. Like, that was her thing. Kit wouldn't be there otherwise if she wasn't who she is exactly. So anyway, enough on her. I kind of feel bad for her, to be honest.
Same. Also, I want to read out what our viewer Andy just wrote in the comments, because Andy is a fellow therapist who found our show a few seasons ago. And Andy, I love when you're here live with us. Andy says in the chat, kids are generally not aware of economics when they are young. This is true, everybody. Please. She probably didn't realize she was privileged. Which is, again, true. You only know your reality, especially in New York, if you're going to a private school with other kids that are sharing your little bubble reality, right? So she probably didn't realize she was privileged. Andy says, just like I didn't realize we didn't have a lot of money as immigrants because we were always loved. Mm-hmm. And she says, of course, I do now as an attorney, but it is about the shape of your heart. Bingo, Andy. So, is Kit loving? Yes. She was crying about baking in the kitchen with her mom. Does Kit seem like a good human being? Yes. Does Kit also seem like a 21-year-old who's grown up with a lot of things that are challenging, more challenging in one way and also easier in another? Yeah. All those things are true. She's a very complex person. I don't like the hate that she's receiving for choices she didn't make for herself.
Yes, that's why I said at the beginning, she's approaching the age at which personal responsibility is beginning to be expected. She's age-wise not there yet in terms of brain chemistry evolution.
Right, like her brain's not even fully developed.
That's why I said I was a fucking moron when I was 21. Things I did. And
I wasn't the best. I did some fun stuff when I was 21, though.
Wouldn't do it again. Hold on. I was a moron who was having fun every day. Let's be very clear. I would not do the things that I did, but I would only do them when I was 21, because that's the shit you do when you're 21.
Yeah.
Like trying to open beer bottles with every single thing in the entire house, because why?
He still does that sometimes.
Ever opened a beer bottle with a CD?
Okay, moving on. So, I wrote down the Kit Mom Kitchen thing is so much bigger. And so then we go to a commercial. He ends up giving her the rose. One thing that Matt says, and he has said this about Kit from the beginning, is that he has so much fun with her. And there's some sort of like kinship, natural connection between them.
I think I know why.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I have to go.
He allows her to be a kid. He's kind of childish and silly. Same energy as Tyler Cameron in that way. Like, they're big, goofy idiots.
Which is why I like them.
Right.
Yeah. Because I'm the same way.
Doesn't feel expectation around the other women. She's probably on full defense model mode. But with him, he's like, we're going to make some food and run around and be silly. And she's like, oh my god, I get to be silly for the 5th time in my life. Like, this is probably new for her. And like, no, I bet he has the least expectations from her on a reality show on TV with a $2 million NDA than she's had in her entire life.
Well, that's
right.
That's what I was gonna say. Is that this is a girl, a woman, who is so used to having expectations of her at every moment of every day. People who have not experienced other people who have wealth, like thinking of like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to have a private chef, or wouldn't it be nice to have like a team to run my giant mansion? Like, it sounds so glamorous and glorious, and like, there are aspects of it that are wonderful, of course, and there are things that aren't. And like, the expectation of being proper, having manners, showing up and not to say that like all of us didn't grow up with our parents hopefully saying, or whoever was raising us saying, you know, say please and thank you. There was a different level of expectation of this child. And so I totally agree with you. It's like, for everybody else coming on The Bachelor, all of a sudden there's like more expectation because it's like being viewed and like everything's on camera. And for her, she's like, I'm on vacation.
Oh, yeah.
This guy's so fun. I'm going to bake cookies and he's hot and we're going to make out. Like, everything about it sounds wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably like the most fun that she's had in like a while.
I want to give Kit a hug. I want to be like Kit's mentee into the middle class. Like, here's what living in New York is like for the rest of us.
Right, like go get like a bodega sandwich with her and like figure out how to eat this. Like, you hold it with your hands, you know, stuff like that.
And like, I have celiac, so it'd still be gluten free. So like, it's a good stepping stone, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that someone who, you know, so far removed from so many things in life that we all know and relate to. It's a whole thing. Yeah. So when it comes to the end of this, I wrote down just the hard bullets of the end of this episode, if we want to jump through it.
Yeah.
The Jessenia, MJ,
yes. So,
I don't know what you want to call it.
I think just before we get into the MJ Jessenia back and forth, which we're going to see more of next week, because this is how we ended on this cliffhanger. But before we get into that, I just wanted to, first of all, if you're here or watching this on YouTube, please click the thumbs up button on the video.
Click it.
Thank you. And leave a comment. Share it with your friends. And, okay, I really like this format of the 2-on-1 thing happening pre-rose ceremony instead of it being a whole date. Like, the whole thing of, like, leaving the person on the island as the helicopter goes away, or, like, leaving the person on the boat, that whole, like, abandonment, like, drama thing, I have always disliked, and because it's come later in the season, it's almost felt like they're trying to recapture some of the early season drama and like toss it into the later part.
Yeah.
And it's always been my least favorite. It's like they're both not going to win. Like, go home. And this feels more like there's conflict. We're going to get to the bottom of it. And whoever the good person is going to get the rose. And like, I dig it. There's also a time frame because it's before the rose, like before the cocktail party.
Out too far, yeah.
I really like it.
I understand what you're saying about the older format of the show and having the later. I agree. They're trying to shoehorn in some drama later on and pit people against each other later on. Sure. I think some seasons have afforded them the opportunity to do that because there's a secondary rivalry that comes later on. I always thought it was great to see someone left behind a helicopter. Like, obviously, they're not being left in the middle of the desert. But
I hate it. Kyle's a bit more like Schadenfreude than I am. If you guys don't know that word, it's like happy. Schadenfreude means happiness at the expense of others. So, like, if you ever watch someone like slip and fall and like you get a little joy from watching that, that's what Schadenfreude means. It's a German word.
That's what America's Funniest Home Videos is.
Right. No, it is.
Yeah. That.
Yes. It's not like an evil thing.
No.
But
so
Kyle gets off on it a little bit more.
I just thought that the way they used to phrase it, I forget who it was, who got left behind in the desert, like in the sandstone desert, like in a helicopter. It was like some ridiculous. It was two guys.
Yeah.
And it was Becca. It was in Becca's season, and they kick off, and the dude's just
It was Jordan. It was Jordan and
David.
Yep.
Chicken boy.
Chicken boy. No, their conflict was in Paradise, I think.
They had conflict on the show that went to Paradise too. David's the chicken.
Anyway. I remember Jordan being on that date, but I don't remember. Yeah, and Ashley and Olivia, everybody's reminiscing in the chat of these old dates.
It's pretty funny. So, but I agree with the different format. I like this is healthier.
It is.
It's healthier, and I will take healthier over drama and laughs from the show any day. I don't need to get it from this show.
Well, it's not like there's not enough drama. That's the thing.
But that I like. But the way they ended that mattered to me. That needs like the Hell's Kitchen-esque level of American drama television to like actual event with like
it was their Hell's Kitchen,
right? Like with everything else in the show, they play it up so much. At least like you don't often get a Hannah kicking Luke P off the show moment. So having an overly dramatic thing where you're like abandoning someone on a boat, like. It at least matches the other bullshit the show polls. Like Chris always says, the most dramatic season ever. If someone's not being left in the desert by a helicopter, can it really be the most dramatic season ever? I'm just saying. I like the showmanship. So.
Wow. Kyle, I'm getting very mixed messages. I just heard it's healthier and you like it better, but also no.
I would rather see someone left in the desert by a helicopter than...
Then Jessenia and MJ?
No. Victoria's entire screen time.
Oh, well, me too. But that's like comparing that cabinet, drawers to like an apple.
I would put up half Victoria's screen time if she's the one who's left in the desert. Final offer.
Done.
Got it. Okay, so...
I would watch double Victoria's screen time to watch her be left in the desert. I'm very on board for Schadenfreude with Victoria.
All right, so it's a date card, 2v1. Even not a date card. It's just come over here and talk to me. Something's going on. It's not even a date card, but they bring a card.
Meet me before.
It's a date card, and it's just come talk to us. So here's what I wrote down. I'm just going to read to you literally what I wrote down, and we can go back through it and pick it apart if we want to.
Okay. I only have 2 things I want to pick out, and that's it. So
the setup for this is so dumb. MJ says some stupid shit. Blah, blah. You put my character in question when I was bullying people. Jessenia says what's happened, and slowly and kindly explains what's going on. And slowly and kindly tears her apart. No matter what happens, Jessenia wins. She showed up. Jessenia says exactly what I'm thinking, and somehow MJ just keeps talking. And that is my version of what happened.
I love our different note-taking styles. So I tried last night to actually note-take in a different way than I have before. Still unclear if it's better or worse. We'll see. I said I wanted to talk about 2 things. I want to talk about 3 things, and Cassie actually just brought up the third. So Cassie in the comments says, and I'm going to address this first. Did y'all notice when they sat down Jessenia, let MJ talk, and didn't interrupt her? But as soon as Jessenia started talking to MJ, MJ was interrupting and trying to talk over her the entire time. So this exchange, I have to pick my words really carefully here. This exchange is a really great example in a small micro way of issues and dynamics between white women and women of color. MJ clearly felt so entitled, and it was very clear that she felt like she had the upper hand, which, given the facts, does not make sense. This scene was hard to watch. At the same time, it was my favorite scene in the episode because Jessenia blew me away.
Oh, yeah.
She stood her ground and communicated in a way that was so healthy. So
she did such a good job.
MJ, so these are the two other things. So that was the first thing I wanted to acknowledge, was just that this was not two white women. And this was not two women of color.
Right.
This was a woman of color and a white woman. And the way that MJ was behaving is in line with a lot of behavior that many of us see from white women towards women or people of color. And whether it's conscious or not, frankly, doesn't matter. It's not okay. And we saw this little microcosm again pop up. BB says, "Uh-oh, Rachael going there again, describing America."
But it's accurate.
Yeah, and
the biggest issue, I mean, MJ clearly shows the ceiling of respect is a lot lower for other people, and yet she demands a higher one.
Correct, which is a very white thing. That's a very
yes.
white, entitled thing. When you don't realize...
People who wrote Manifest Destiny, absolutely is an entitled thing.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And the way that MJ acted in this, if you just mute her audio and just say whenever she opens her mouth saying, "I'm lying, I'm wrong, this is going poorly," the whole thing makes sense. And Jessenia handles herself
with grace, kindness, compassion.
Almost frustratingly calm for my take, but that's the point. And what she says, though, towards the end is just like the chef's kiss of the entire argument. I love it.
This to me, though, is like when I get DMs from people that are like, "How can you be a real therapist and talk about your relationship and blah, 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 blah." And I just write back with like, "Thank you so much for asking this question. Like, here's the answer, and here's a link to my license. And I hope you really have a wonderful day. And if you ever need support, let me know." Like, that was the feeling that I got from Jessenia, was like, she was met with this, like, dog whistle, dog whistle, dog whistle, dog whistle, or like trying to poke. And she was just like, no, this isn't going to work on me.
MJ was absolutely trying to rile her up in every possible way, which is why she was talking over her, that's why she was interrupting her. That's why she was saying super antagonistic, inflammatory things. So gaslighting.
The two things that I want to address are, one, MJ saying that they are sitting there because of Jessenia.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, that, excuse me, I had a burp, that MJ said that Jessenia accused her of something. And I watched this happen in real time. We rewound it like 4 times because I was like,
Gotta catch it.
What? So I want to talk about these two things, and then we're going to totally wrap. So MJ says that they are there because of Jessenia saying her name. No. You're there because MJ lied, and Jessenia told the truth. The victimization, like the self-victimization of MJ in this moment, and the gaslighting of "we're here because of you." No, bitch, you did it. Jessenia doesn't want to be there. She doesn't. Do you think Jessenia wants to use her time with Matt to talk about MJ?
I think she's 3 steps down the narcissist prayer, actually. I think MJ's 3 steps in. It's, I didn't do it. If I did do it, you deserved it. If you deserved it, then, like, I'm not at fault. I don't know. She's like,
I'm not at fault or so. Yeah.
Hold on, I'm going to pull it up. She's on I'm pretty sure she's on step 3.
So then, Jessenia reflects to MJ that she has seen 3 different sides of her. And all of a sudden, MJ responds so angrily, that's a big accusation to make. And I literally paused the TV and I looked at Kyle and my 2 other partners, and I was like,
what's real?
Is having sides to ourselves an accusation? Like, did I thought I, like, took drugs. I was like, did I take an edible and forget and it kicked in right now?
Right.
No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't understand how saying I've seen different sides of you is an accusation unless you have thoroughly, on purpose, acted in a way that is not you.
Yes.
And someone's then calling you out.
Yes.
That's the only way in which that's an accusation. If you said, Rachael, you have so many different sides to you, I would be like, yes. I wouldn't be like, that's a big accusation, Kyle.
Really, an accusation would be saying you have 2 sides to you, because then that's very limiting.
Right.
So let's think about the behaviors of MJ and Anna. Victoria, we're going to cross off. Think about how Anna acted earlier in the episode and the end of the last one, and now think about how MJ is acting now.
Can we just asterisk this with, this is not a diagnosis?
This is not a diagnosis. This is a poem that is called The Narcissist Prayer. And it is, I think that, actually, we're almost all the way through. It didn't happen. And if it did, it wasn't that bad. And if it was, it's not a big deal. And if it was, and if it is, it's not my fault. And if it was, I didn't mean it. And if I did, you deserved it. That's the narcissist prayer. And if you look at how MJ is treating Jessenia, she's first saying she didn't do something. Then she says, wasn't that bad. Then she's trying to deflect and saying it's not a big deal. Then it's not her fault. Anna ended up right around, I didn't mean to. She never got to, you deserved it. Anna ended up, I didn't mean it.
Yeah.
Even though.
Kyle, good call.
You did.
You did. You definitely
did.
said you did.
You said it a bunch. If you said it once, I'd believe you.
We saw it on TV. We saw it.
Which is what Jessenia said.
So go for it. Go for it. The look in the camera.
So they've been breaking the fourth wall in this episode, which I appreciate. We got the Jim Halpert full on. The editors did not have to do this.
No!
This was a choice by production, and I appreciate them fully for this. I say a lot of bad things about them, not about this.
This made the whole...
MJ's just saying whatever. And Jessenia is trying to get a few words in, and there's a moment of silence from MJ where Jessenia goes, "You'll see when this airs on TV."
And looks straight into the camera. There are so many memes out there of this look.
So good.
Of Jessenia looking directly into the camera with just this smile. It's not like a I fucking got you smile. No. It is a like,
it's like
she's gonna see this when it airs.
Like, you're gonna.
And I gotta say, Jessenia continues to, she's a great example. I also think this about Rachael. They both, I think, are just shyer people. And I think it can create until they're in a position or situation in which they kind of come out of their shell and show themselves. Yeah. It can create a little like what's she all about?
I can see that. Yeah.
And I think that that's something that we misconstrue a lot in our society is that like, a lot of people think that shy women often get called bitchy, because there's quieter. There's a perception,
the male perception that a lack of communication is somehow a rejection. Yeah.
Right, or like funny, smiling, right? Like,
oh, God.
Like when people say smile more, like that, it's a horrible thing. So I really want to like. Yeah, I really like Jessenia and Rachael.
I would like to see Jessenia. I don't think that she'll go to the end of the show.
No,
I would like to see her on Paradise.
For sure. I agree.
Paradise or any other of the franchise.
And she's a great example of like what we've been talking about and why we were so frustrated with the amount of manufactured drama is like there are really, really good people on this season.
Yeah, like better than usual.
Yeah. And like,
better than usual.
Even if you look at just like Rachael, Jessenia, Michelle, Pieper, Bree.
Yeah.
I'm literally just naming random people.
Even Sarah who left the show.
Right. Like, there are just so many good people. So I really think that this episode was a turning point. Obviously, we'll deal with the MJ stuff at the beginning of next week.
Yeah.
I will say, though, well, I was going to say something about Tyler Cameron, but now I'm going to tell you that it's starting to snow again. I'm very excited for Tyler Cameron's cameo appearance.
Yep.
Very excited to see our friend Heather, friend of the pod, pop back in and see what that is all about. And I'm excited to leave I know that there will be drama with Heather coming in. I know that there's going to be I get it.
I wrote down everyone's mad.
And it's not going to be like it was with Victoria. It's a different type of drama. And so I'm prepared. I feel like I have a week to prepare myself for this. I'm ready. Are you excited for next week, Emily? Tentatively?
Tentatively. MJ's still on the show. Got to start out with that train wreck. But, once Matt has whenever he manages to figure out that situation, however that plays out, then the show can continue, because just got to rip that Band-Aid off. Please stop cold opens. Still hate them.
Yeah,
they're terrible.
They're terrible.
Very confusing. We good?
Yeah. Thank you for being here with us. Don't forget to like, rate, subscribe, comment, share, put a thumbs up. All of the things. Cannot tell you how much it helps us and helps other people find our show. We will see you live same time next week.
Bye.
Bye.